Good evening, everyone. So, as you can see by the uh, thing, we are doing seven deadly sins, and then I'm getting. Oh my! What the hell? I'm getting messages for math problems. Um, I'm going to bring Sam up. He's going to start talking about seven deadly sins. And how are you tonight, Sam? College mathematics.
Oh boy, that ain't easy.
No. So
Well, I wish you guys luck. That stuff isn't easy, but she should be able to get through it eventually.
right, we hope so. I mean, she's doing great so far. This is
Yeah.
the first time she's actually had some kind of problem with homework. But anyway, I digress. So I'm going to drop down off of here. He's going to start talking about the seven deadly sins. And as you come in, please make sure you like, share, comment, do whatever. Uh, so, all right, Sam.
All right. Well, I'll take it from here. This is the seven deadly sins. I'm trying to write a tiny bit of history along with why it is a sin to some degree, and also a very tiny bit of what do you call it? History that goes with it. Let me start. The concept of the seven deadly sins is an old one, but it is something that has made a lot of sense. It is, in a way, of being that of avoiding extremes. No matter what time period you are in, excessive amounts of anything is a bad thing. From the food we eat to the rest we take, to the way we look, and in so many other ways, overdoing things is something that we must all avoid. From social problems to health, from social problems to health problems, using the concept of the seven deadly sins to help one manage their lives does help. According to Christianity, we all sin. But as said before, these guidelines help to make things a bit better, but not overdoing the activity we are having. This is done in the way of showing a tiny bit of the history of one of the founders and to show the sins themselves along with the effects that they have on people. Seven deadly sins were and are a concept to give people of an outline of what not to do in life, at least in excess. Pope Gregory I helped in the making of the seven deadly sins, or establishing the seven deadly sins. He came from a kind of well-to-do family in Europe. He had opportunities in the way of the secular life or private life, but he also had a choice of public service. Eventually, he chose public service. He was considered to be extremely educated in those days. He did what he could to fight corruption and many of the negative parts and lives of those days. He did everything he could to attain peace with the Germanic tribes, the Byzantines, and even the locals of Italy, and also the natives of Gaul. When he came to power, he did what he could to enact the seven deadly sins in a way of showing people of the seven deadly sins. He knew people sin and were born into the act of sin. Pope Gregory wanted to give people a code of morality that could help people with not just spirituality, but with morality and, in theory, mental and physical health. The seven deadly sins are of this: pride, greed, lust, envy, gluttony, and sloth. The reality of the seven deadly sins does apply to this day. The reason for this is that those guidelines can keep you healthier, out of jail, and even out of the graveyard. We have different problems as opposed to when those were set up. The problems we have these days can be slowed down if we enact these into our daily life. Even if you're not a Christian, these guidelines can help most any day, most anyone on any daily basis. Pride is something that does help quite a bit in life. Looking your best for certain events can be crucial in the way of meeting goals, formal events, and even attaining a job. Speaking well of yourself can be seen as a form of self-respect. Making yourself educated and being positive is part of pride, but the sin of pride is considered to be that of vanity to the point that if it is of extremes. It can also be that of extremes of vanity, which is extreme arrogance depending on whom you ask. Thinking that your abilities in certain subjects and thinking no one is better than you is that of pride or arrogance. It's a dangerous sin. It is one of those that are of not knowing your limits. Oftentimes, overestimating yourself, say like in a military situation, it is a way of getting people killed. In sports, many great athletes out there in various sports can succeed by thinking you are unbeatable. It can bring someone down to their knees in the way of loss and even injury. In team sports, say like as in baseball, most people lose and lose big, and it has a tendency to hurt someone in an injury by thinking you are the top solo superstar. Arrogance is that of pride, but over pride also can be considered sin in the way you think you are the best at whatever you do, no matter where your talents lie. It is that of overthinking yourself, having a feeling of being more, and even not remembering the concept of humility. Greed is the desire to have control all that is material. Some amount of greed is a good thing. Concept of prepping, which means preparing yourself for the harshest conditions, is feeling like and retaining things that can be essential to others is a dangerous concept. If someone needs food and a person holds on to it in the way of hoarding, people have the tendency to die in situations such as that. As said, in pursuit of all that of the material and the pursuit of wealth, people that are of greed oftentimes can be seen as having a lack of respect for others. They are even seen as being that of a lack of humanity and a lack of emotion. An old saying that goes like this: "What is yours is what is they." An old saying that goes like this: "What is mine, and what's yours is mine." Greed is also that of manipulation, oftentimes for control, to get things that are material into their possession. With greed in the way of hoarding, it can also lead to resentment with the goods that you may have that are not distributed evenly with others. And if you've ever been through some kind of natural disaster, such as a blizzard, a hurricane, an earthquake, or even a volcano or something, or whatever, hoarding onto items can get people killed. And holding on to them in order to attain wealth of some kind, that gets people killed also. Lust is the sin of sexual desire in the way of compulsion. Lust is what has kept the human race going, though. Being intimate with a partner produces more people to carry humanity to future generations. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but when it is in the way of extremes, it can be a huge problem. With lust, most of us have, where you covet it and need it all the time. Many people will do what they can to get it, and even in the way of doing a crime or two in order to achieve that. Another problem with lust is that doing what you can to have it all the time can lead to certain health problems called STIs. STI is an acronym called sexually transmitted infections. Certain infections can cause dramatic problems for a person, for the partner, and or a lover. STIs have been known to kill people, get them sick, and disfigure people also. With that being said, carrying the sin of lust to extremes is that of something that can be a huge problem in more than just one way. Envy is that of the sin that is the desire for certain traits such as physical looks, social status, monetary status, and sometimes achievements someone else has had and that someone else has made. It tears the relationships apart and has a way of manifesting negativity and hate. You can actually call it jealousy. A person can have siblings that are rivals to win over the parents' love and attention in a way by any means any way necessary in any sort of way. You can have a man that is jealous of someone because another man has the type of woman they have always wanted. You can also have someone who competes with their neighbors in a low kind of way that can be extremely detrimental in the way of destroying the neighbor's property just to make their own look better. They can do what they can to destroy a neighbor's social status to make it to their own on out of envy. The person with envy may have their own reasons that may be legitimate reasons for having that emotion, but it can still eat away at a person that can also lead to resentment. People with envy do a lot of competition with others to better themselves about themselves. Instead of being happy for someone's merits and achievements, the person with envy wants those things for themselves. The person with envy may not realize the work that the person may have put into those tasks. All they see is something that they want, and oftentimes will do what it takes to get what they feel should belong to them. Gluttony is the sin of overindulgence. Most people think that yeah, most people say it is eating and drinking, but there is a lot more to it. It is that of being excessive with everything you have. Gluttony is a sin because anything in excess can be and will develop into problems. You can go to all you can eat buffets, and which are huge examples of gluttony, especially with high calorie foods and sugary drinks, or even alcoholic drinks. Another part with gluttony is the health problems it causes. Being excessive in your consumption can lead to hypertension, high blood pressure. Diabetes is another problem that can destroy your health in a huge amount of ways, whether in the short run or long run. Alcohol consumption in excess can poison a body and affect your judgment, such as fighting, drinking, and driving, along with alcohol poisoning. Then there is the obvious one in many different ways is called obesity. There are many problems there are many problems with gluttony, but keep in mind most of it is preventable. The sin of gluttony is that way because trying to find comfort in the way of excess is something that can destroy a person. As mentioned, numerous times, health problems can happen, and it can also be quite the strain on someone's wealth. Also, food can be expensive, especially in what you eat. With gluttony, super morbid obesity is something that strangles a person but also strangles the individual's loved ones because of the way the person is killing themselves with food and drink. With all these problems, another problem is that it can give is chemical addiction. People that have had injury in their past on certain body parts may start taking medications or even street level narcotics to help with their comfort and pain. This can lead to overconsumption of these chemicals in the body. A person may not a person may feel hot all the time, and may even go into withdrawals if they are not given regular dose. Those doses can make the person retain weight from fat deposits and to even water deposits. With all this overconsumption, it only takes the person performing the sin, but everyone that is associated with them. Wrath, which is one of the big ones also. Wrath is the sin of extreme anger. This anger can come out and hurt anyone and everyone within its path. It is considered a huge inner resentment with a vicious case of hate from within. Often, wrath can happen at the worst times for someone who may or may not deserve it on the receiving end of the wrath or the sin of wrath. This can happen in times of driving, aka road rage. Wrath also leads to obvious violence within or out of the home. Victims can be innocent people who do not deserve the receiving end of the conflict. Wrath can do damage to the person who is holding that sin within them in the way of health problems. Those health problems can include strokes. They can also cause it can cause irritable problems within the gastrointestinal tract and many other things. But these people that have wrath, not always, can take their dark desire out on the wrong person that never deserved that treatment. People with wrath oftentimes are in jail and in prison for violent crimes or even murder or many different other reasons. In a general sense, wrath is a sin that earns the name sin. Generally, in certain faiths, especially various forms of Christianity, wrath is not for humans to have. It is for Jehovah or God to have. Judgment we have is not to be enacted. We are to obey and serve, to not judge and jury, and not to be judge, jury, and executioners. That is not our responsibility. Wrath in certain parts of Christianity is supposed to be that of God to choose or not choose. The history of the 7 deadly sins is lengthy, but it has a certain simplicity. Some people can say it is out of line because it can come across as dictating to someone's life, but it can also be in theory of being enacted to save lives. It can prevent someone from making bad choices and also being used to help someone with certain health problems. Another way it can help is keeping someone out of jail and out of prison. In a general way, the history of it has some amount of the best intentions. 7 deadly sins are also a concept of what not to do so much of all there is in life. There are things actually we all sin to some extent. If you do what you can to look good and have yourself in order with confidence, that can be considered pride. The second concept of the 7 deadly sins is that of greed. Greed is the concept of selfishness, never sharing a sort of plentiful bounty you may have to come into. Even if the person is in need of it, you retaining it from anyone and everyone is the sin of greed. The next sin is the of lust. Most people do have that, but some people go far beyond to attain it. Many people, it can be said to have a crevice in their heart that they may feel that lust is the only way to solve it, but rarely if they ever do in the way of lust. Envy is something along with the lines of wanting what is not yours. The person of envy wants that of what another person has out of sheer jealousy, and oftentimes takes what that does not belong to them. Gluttony is the sin of overindulgence of food and material of food and other things. To the material life, and in certain views, can be said to be hoarding. Wrath is that of extreme anger. Wrath can be done in the way, I guess you could say, of having a permanent chip on your shoulder. Wrath can also be described as having a vendetta against someone or something. Being of wrath, you wish to take on the world and not care about any consequences towards the other person or themselves. Sloth is that of sleeping too much and not being active in anything. Staying home when doing nothing in life and just being that of no activity in the way of perform the sin of sloth. And there you go, folks. Any questions by any chance? Well, I guess I can say this much. It is the seven deadly sins, like I said, is that of excessiveness, and everything. Like when you're tired, the only thing you want to do, go home and go to sleep. That's how it goes. That's understandable. But when somebody sleeps habitually and everything, that leads to bed sores. It leads to bed sores and muscle atrophy, things like that. Whenever it comes to greed in the way of taking what's not yours and this and that, that's part of it. I guess you could say, Ridgerum, that can fall depending on what you do. We can lead to sloth to some degree, also gluttony. But at the same time, we can also, I guess you can say, fall under like a beer at the end of the day, just to have something to relax by. But if you're smoking pot day in and day out and everything, and all of us have had those friends who smoke a lot too much weed, that could be detrimental. But if it's like once a day or something like that, but not all the time. No, I definitely agree. We all sin to some degree. I'm not a Christian and everything, but the concept of seven deadly sins is something that makes a little bit of sense, but not to the point of excessiveness. Like if you go out, you have something to eat a sandwich, and have a drink. There's nothing wrong with that. That's supplying your body with nutrients and things like that. When and there's other things. But what I'm getting at essentially is that of excessiveness. That is what I'm getting at.
Trying to find somebody commented, and I thought it was funny.
I don't blame you on that.
It was kind of demonic. It came from the toes.
It depends on the smell. If the smell is bad, that's demonic. And depending on what area it comes out of, that could be demonic. Even the devil will look at you and say, "Man, that's wrong." No, that's just wrong. But for the most part, you have to remember that Pope Gregory was that of somebody who was trying to find a medium. The research I did on him was using diplomacy, doing this, doing that, working with other people, whether you like the person or not. That was revolutionary, to try and find that medium instead of hellfire and damnation. What he was doing was he was trying to find a medium in that sort of way. I respect the guy completely. I'm not Catholic. But anybody who tries to find a way of not using the sword as opposed to using a hug or paying somebody for this or that, I see nothing wrong with that. And that's one of the reasons why I like the guy. but like you can like take like the sin of pride. Pride isn't necessarily is a bad thing. It's arrogance that's the bad thing, and that's my interpretation. Is excessiveness, and like someone was saying about weed, if you just have it for at the end of the day after a long hard working day, what's the big deal? I mean, yeah, what's the big deal? The only problem you're going to have is the only kind of fist fight, not even a fist fight. The only argument you're going to have is who's going to buy the munchies next time. No, it's true. I mean, somebody who's paid for the weed 3 times and only paid for the munchies 1 time, that man is owed. But a realistic thing, just doing all that, that's how it goes. You have to be reasonable. You have to work with people, and that's how it is.
Right. Any other questions? Are you self-taught? Squawk? What are you asking? Are you self-taught or born into it?
We're all born into sin. Most of the stuff I know is self-taught to some degree, but for the most part, we all sin, and that's just a reality. And that's just a reality, but we have to work with one another, all of us.
Oh, he's talking about witchcraft.
Oh, you could, I guess you could say that to some degree. I'm more self-taught than anything else. A lot of the stuff, somehow, strangely enough, I already knew. I mean, I already knew how to do it and everything. I'm not the best. I'm not the worst. I try and keep a sense of humility, but I do have a basic concept of many different things. Am I a master at any of it? No, I'm not. But I try like heck to do the best I can with it.
We got Coffin Crew.
Hey, Coffin, good to see you.
So shout out some people that are here. We got Coffin Crew. We got Squawk Radio. We got Anonymous Light. Ghost Squad Scotland, which is apparently Chris, who's having a hard time watching and typing. It took him 10 minutes to type with the remote.
Well, it's good to have you here, Chris. It's good to have you, Coffin, Anonymous. Nice to meet you, Ghost Squad.
Red Rum TV.
Hey, nice to meet you guys. We're glad to have you here. Can't see the words.
Red Rum wants to know, are you a wizard?
No, I seriously doubt that. I mean, if you want to call me that, that's fine. I don't see myself as that way, but I do appreciate the compliment.
Brianna, when we first got on here.
It's okay, Brianna.
At 6:36. So you weren't late. You were right on time. I mean, you were only 6 minutes late. But we won't knock you for that. Anybody got any other questions?
Hey, Ashling, good to see you. Always is.
Sierra. Welcome in, Sierra. Any questions? Come on.
Well, if there's no questions, I guess we can conclude with it. But I'll say this much. We're all born into sin to some degree, according to Christianity. Some of us aren't Christians, some of us are, and everything. But whatever your concept is, I respect Christianity highly. And the reason why I respect it is because of the good it's done for a lot of people. I've seen total monsters become human beings again because of what they've learned and how they've acted in life. I mean, people slow down of this and that. And with the 7 deadly sins, like I said, in my opinion, it is that of not doing things in excess. Like there's nothing to me. Arrogance is a horrible thing. Thinking that you're better at this and that than others, that's a bad one. Sloths, doing nothing but resting or sleeping all the time, not being active, that weighs in on you, and not just yourself, but also your family. You also have gluttony, eating too much, diabetes, hypertension. You also have lust, which is a great one, but it's not a good one, but we all have it to some degree. But it leads to health problems left and right. And also, it can lead to certain problems with relationships of this and that. And it destroys families, destroys lives in the way of pursuing it ridiculously. You ever heard the term AIDS? That can tell you a big thing. Herpes, which can be one of the most annoying diseases out there, but it destroys lives. You've also got many different others that are STIs, which, like I said, is sexually transmitted infections. You also have envy, wanting those social status, wanting this, wanting that, and everything, and doing what you can to sabotaging another person because they have something you want. That destroys lives. And, wrath, let's be honest here, we all know that one. And like I said, the list goes on and on. To me, like I said, and this is my last, that's the last of it, is that excessiveness. That's the problem. And with excess, that's detrimental to everything. And I guess that concludes on all this.
So I combined what Anonymous started typing, and then I guess accidentally hit the enter button a couple times. So I combined what they were trying to say. Would sins, especially in the home, increase harmful activity and possibly attract other harmful spirits?
Yes, they can, depending on the person. If there's already negativity within a home and somebody is doing those things in excess and everything, that will attract certain entities that are not of a good nature. And whenever something is done in that sort of way, it can lead to a mess load of problems that kills people left and right and everything. So basically, if you ever heard of the Amityville Horror, they did an interview with one of the people that was a kid in that place. Now he's an adult, of course. They said that it already had a bad spirit. The young kid that grew into a man, he said something similar, but he said the father was not that of a decent guy. He had a bad attitude, vicious nature, and everything, and he was quite a mean person who hurt a lot of people. Now, you take that kind of an energy signature with bad energy already in the home, and you take a gentleman that has that much of a bad attitude in life, guess what? It's going to do nothing but cause problems, if not make the problems worse for anyone and everyone out there. So we can sit there and we can debate it and everything if we want. There's nothing wrong with that. But with bad energy and with that gentleman, I forgot to say, he didn't care if he was doing those sins, and he was also Catholic. He didn't care. And with all that, he made that bad situation 20 times worse in the most dramatic ways. So, like I said, whenever it comes to haunting and somebody coming in with a nasty attitude, doing those things, yes, it makes things worse.
Any other questions? I know you guys got a bunch of questions. Come on.
Like I said, Chad and Linda have some merchandise that's going on these days, and they're doing what they can. We're working on some projects. I'm going to be working with them in Oregon over to here, and there you go.
Sierra, I believe that things like drug and alcohol addiction can open a person to negative spirits too.
Yes, ma'am. They definitely can. It can make things far worse. If somebody's, well, like I was saying, if somebody's got a bad attitude already and they are consuming alcohol and doing drugs on a continuous day, hour by hour basis, that's going to attract negative energy, negative spirits, not necessarily just negative, but bad, nasty spirits and entities in a horrible amount of ways. Are you going to be able to not do sin? No, you can't even do anything without sinning to some degree. But the thing is, if you have a bad attitude and you're doing the sinning and you're also angry as anything, that makes things 20 times worse. And adding on to it, drugs and alcohol, you're sitting duck for problems. And that's how it is. So, like I said, there's no way of getting around sin, but you can slow it down or things like that.
So, like Sam was saying, we got some different merchandise that we're working on. We know this one is copyrighted, so we're not selling them, but we are doing different things. It's and I thought it turned out pretty cool.
I love it.
Michael Myers. It's what we did was we took a stencil and then took the shirt and sprayed bleach on it so that it turned out like. And then
that's the thing with Chad and Linda. You get creativity whether you want it or not, and they're dramatically good at it.
This one is a special order from my boss. He likes Michael Myers, so
yeah, he was great in Austin Powers. I mean, he was a killer. I thought it was funny. Never mind, that was bad.
You hear the story of the comedian that died on stage?
Tell me.
His joke died on impact.
Oh God, I know a lot of jokes, but are completely inappropriate, even online. So I won't even go there. But for the most, but like I said, you have to remember, certain energies attract, certain activities attract certain attention, and also resentment and all kinds of other things. 7 deadly sins, like I said, isn't necessarily against sin. It's against excessiveness, excessive activity, mentality, this and that and everything. No person on this planet is pure. Not a single one of us are pure. But the thing is we do better whenever we're not excessive about it. And we can work with people. We can cooperate with people. You don't have to like what another person does or doesn't do. But you have to remember, we are people we're all people and everything. And we can slow down those activities, making life a little bit better for ourselves. So I guess if there one or two more last questions, if anybody wants to hear it.
More people trying to drag this out to at least an hour.
Well, I will say this much. I'm going to be selling some comic books. Chad has seen a tiny bit of what I have. What I'll be doing is selling those. I have Spawn number 50 signed by Greg Capullo, and that's going to be going on sale. So if you're ever looking for my name and you want to buy it, just let me know. It goes to the highest bidder. And if you want to look at that, there you go. You've also got the people in Oregon who amazing, amazing freaking people. And it's weird. I moved to Oregon, like most everyone knows. And it's weird because in September, they're actually having seasons. I know. I come from Florida, where it should be renamed either Sweat or Hot. That's the new name that Florida should go by. And here, you can go outside and you get under a tree, you cool down. Florida, you go under a tree, you're still hot. You're still sweating. You're still miserable.
Well,
and I love the season.
You got to remember on the East Coast, it's not the heat, it's the humidity.
Yes. Yeah. Here it's heat. I can handle heat. It's not that hard. I mean, you pace yourself, you drink and this and that. You go to the East Coast, if you're hot, you're going to stay hot. You better drink plenty of water. You need to drink plenty of Gatorade or water. And you also, on the East Coast, like I said, you're going to sweat. Now, my problem is whenever I was visiting Chad and Linda, everyone was making fun of me off and on behind my back. Oh, God, is he really that cold? I'm like, yeah. I mean, they're like, hasn't he ever seen snow? No. Yeah, it really hasn't.
Well, mind you, you came up here the first time, and it was October.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We're getting ready to go into October. It was the end of October, where he's in long johns, sweatshirts, T-shirts, and all kinds. He's got like 15 layers on, and me and Linda are running around in tank tops,
shorts and sandals.
I don't wear sandals, but tank tops and shorts.
Mm-hmm.
We're used to the cold.
Yeah, I'm just now. If you guys ever look, if anybody's interested in some of the stuff I've done, Chad and Linda broadcasted it. I went to a place called Hontoon Island. And so Hontoon Island, magnificent place, my favorite place in DeLand. It has a variety of wildlife and this and that and everything. And if you ever take a K2 meter over to Hontoon Island, you're going to find some interesting stuff and everything. Because if we're talking about energy, you go there, it's ancient. Before Caucasians, before European settlers got there, and they destroyed everything. The island civilization was over 16,000 years old. And so you go over there and you're seeing this, you're seeing that. You can feel things, you can feel that. They still have boar over there. They have boar, they have bears, they have deer. Ever so often you might see a stray dog or this or that. And you see a lot of animal activity. That's number one. Number two, those trees are old as anything. And so if you go over to Hontoon Island, you're going to see, and if you're intuitive, you're going to feel some stuff. You're going to feel some different stuff. Like the first broadcast I did with Chad and Linda over there, the signal was going in and out. Sherry Brett and Chad and Linda Smith were broadcasting it, and I was coming in and out. They're saying, "No, Sam, no, look over there. No, Sam, no, look, no, stop right there." And then it would go out. The tree canopy was overshadowing the signal and this and that. I saw the broadcast later on with Chad and Linda rolling their eyes as the camera would go out. I mean, it's like, oh, good. It's great footage, but no, Sam, just turn off and just keep recording. And I felt bad for the two of them. But keep in mind, that's like 96-degree weather over there with a whole lot of humidity, the sun beating down on you, snakes, this and that, and everything. And you can ask them, whenever I go to places like that, I bundle up. And people would sit there and call me insane going out there. Then I see these two people later on. I literally saw two people that were there that thought I was insane for wearing it. I'm coming back from my trail, and they're slapping the living crap out of themselves to get the bugs off of them. And one of them had, two of them had, one had a bikini top and shorts and some flip flops, and the other one had no shirt on, some shorts, and they're being eaten alive. And I didn't say anything, but I'm like thinking, yeah, I guess I'm such an idiot for bundling up while you guys are being eaten alive by insects. But for the most part, if you want to find some neat stuff, I know this is off topic, energy wise, but if you want to find some neat stuff, go to Chad and Linda. They'll hook you up with some interesting stuff that you would never really find. And they've got some all three of us have some projects that's going to be happening in the future. We're not going to announce it completely, but it's going to be happening. So there you go.
Me and Linda specifically, we're heading to South Carolina Friday. My mom requested that we try to go down there and help out a little bit and meet up with some of the family that's still down there. As most of you know, my uncle passed away on the 9th. So safe travels for us, hopefully. Nobody has Sierra put on there that the heat and humidity here are both awful. I'm from New England, and summers here are way better.
Oh, yeah. At least you can cool down in New England. Over here, over in Florida and the land, you really can't. And Sierra is definitely right. I know her in person, and and keep in mind also in Florida, the fourth largest business in Florida is AC and refrigeration in the entire state. And when that AC goes out, they're going to pay. Guaranteed.
So, all right. Well, see what we got.
Well, I guess that's about it. Well, it has been a pleasure reading the report to you guys and everything. You guys are always great to me. Thank you, Chad and Linda, and so many others. I do want to say thank you to my hosts, Nick and Asa. They've been amazing towards me through thick and thin. Been some of the most greatest people I've met in a very long time. But I just want to say thank you to a lot of people. And Chad and Linda, always having me and give me creative control of whatever I want to write.
Yep. So we will see you guys. I think Linda's doing an inner courts with Sherry tomorrow, I believe. And next week, instead of the inner courts next Thursday, we are going to have Sam, myself, and Linda. And we're also going to have Ken Allen from the Wizards Table back on here. So if anybody wants to check that out, we're going to go over some of the sigils that Sam has been finding in Oregon, which so if you watched last week's show and you saw us bring up one of the sigils and stuff, we had Ken actually look at it, and it's a voodoo VV, I think he said, and he's going to go over and explain more of what that is and stuff like that. So if you can, share it out, that way people know to come watch next Thursday, 6:30. We'll be starting, and it's kind of an open forum type thing like we've been doing. So Ken will be on here, maybe Mistress B, and me, Sam, Linda. So.
Well, I'll say this much with Ken and Mistress B, amazing couple of people. I love them half to death. All right. Well, you folks take care. And I want to say thank you to everyone who's been watching and going to watch. Many thank yous. Namaste.
Yep. So off to the credits.